Would you like to know how I became a superhero? So my mom made me this really cool outfit out of tape, and I thought I had superpowers, but I did not. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. There's a brand new superhero film that just dropped on the platform, and that is How I Became a Superhero. This was a really interesting film that kind of reminded me of Project Power from last year going into it, but we're going to talk about it, so let's do it. Superheroes are perfectly integrated into society. A mysterious drug which bestows super abilities to those who have none spreads out in the city. As the number of incidents rise, Lieutenant Moreau and Schaltzmann are sent out to investigate. Along with two vigilante old-timers, they will stop at nothing to contain the spread of this narcotic, but Moreau's past resurfaces and the case thickens, and thus the plot thickens. And Moreau is a fascinating character at the beginning because you really didn't know too much about him, and that's kind of the case for most of the characters here. There's not a lot of development and backstory at the beginning, or really around the halfway point. I'm sitting back wondering, all right, are we going to get a little bit of development for these characters? I know we're getting the in the now, but it would be nice to know what makes a character like Moreau tick, and we get that eventually, even though I was kind of sitting and waiting on it to happen. When you look at the actual genre that this movie is trying to fit in, and, you know, making the comparison of Project Power, and even reading off that plot, it is somewhat similar, but in this film, being a superhero is more of an accepted thing. We see Moreau walking down the street at the beginning, and someone's using their superpower just to get something out of the way while they're walking. So it's almost like it's normal, everyday life, and a lot of people have it, not just a select few. But this drug that is going around, it's giving random people super abilities that have never had it before. And what happens when someone who probably wants something that others have, in this case, superpowers, because, I mean, I'd be walking around like, all right, okay, why don't I have superpowers? Most of the time, it's going to cause trouble, and that's absolutely what happens, and it's up to our lieutenant here and our detectives to go out and investigate, and it really adds another dynamic to what I thought would be just kind of an in-your-face, or a straight-up, I don't mean that in a bad way, superhero movie. Well, there's not much more to it. It's not that entirely, because there is a detective element where our two main characters, they're kind of stuck with each other around 10 minutes into the movie, and they're able to go out and kind of solve this case and piece together the clues that slowly come about. Now, following that storyline is also a bit conventional. It's also something we've seen before. What I really enjoyed about this movie is the way that it was able to mesh the two and bring this idea to life. The idea that this narcotic is really causing a lot of harm, and being able to rope in a few individuals, a couple of vigilantes that do things on their own time in Monte Carlo and Callista, it was very interesting at a point. Now, I will say, I believe the movie goes on just a bit too long. I also believe around the halfway point, it does start to become a bit formulaic and a bit muddled. I was really wanting to move on to the crux of the story, and we eventually get there. Absolutely. Somewhat of a rousing finale, and honestly a heartfelt finale. There's something that happens that, you know, certain side characters learn about our main character at the end, and it provided a lot of heart, and I really appreciated that. Prior to that point, it was a bit of an up and down story for me, but I believe they brought it home in a way that left me satisfied at the end, and it had more of an independent feel to it than I thought. You know, again, third time in this video, Project Power. You guys remember. That movie felt like a blockbuster. It did. You know, big-time stars, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Jamie Foxx, and a lot of special effects CGI, and this has that. Absolutely. But it's also a lower budgeted, and you can tell, not in a bad way, French film that has a bit of a different flow to it than superhero movies that we're used to, not only because of the country of origin here, but also because of just the way it's presented to us. And that's another thing that I like. Anytime you can kind of spin the superhero genre into a bit of a different direction, I appreciate that. So before I give you guys my score, if you are not subscribed to this channel, I would love to have you all join me on my journey to watch as many movies and TV shows as we possibly can And if you enjoyed this review, be sure to smash that thumbs up button down below. While the story does take a bit of time to develop, the film injects so much life into the final act, and it holds certain that allow it to feel fresh. My score is a solid 63% for an unexpected superhero movie, one that does, again, hold a few issues when it comes to character development. I just needed more depth in the first half of the movie, but it does really bring it home, and it finally gives us that backstory to our main character, which was interesting in itself. So, how did you guys feel about this French Netflix film? It's one I think a lot of people are going to be interested in. And, you know, if you love the independent vibes that we don't often get from a superhero movie, this definitely has that at times. All right, guys, you're truly the best. Stay tuned to this channel. Possibly a Black Widow spoiler review if I can get my wife to sit down and have a conversation with me, because I want her to be in it. All right, guys, see you soon.